Alrighty, folks, the Lions take on the Packers Thursday Night Football. That'll be an 8:15 Eastern kickoff. Detroit's the 1-point favorite, totals 46. We did see a 1-point fade of the Lions in the early wagering. They open as the 2-point favorite, down to 1. Total open 45, up to 46. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I actually like the best, you may want to think about signing up for my NFL package on my premium page. It gives you access to 3 premium NFL plays a week for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you also get access to all of my cheaper memberships every single day for the next 30 days, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. The link for my premium site is in the description section below. It's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, folks, I do think the Packers are a little bit outmatched in this one, especially at the quarterback position. Jordan Love's completing just 17 passes per game. That actually puts Green Bay in the bottom 3 in the NFC in that particular category. And even worse than that, Love's completing only 53% of those passes I just mentioned. That's worse than any other team in the league besides one. And if you think Green Bay can kind of mask that stink and just hand it off, well, running back Aaron Jones, he's still battling a hammy. The Packers are already averaging under 3.5 yards per rush. They're taking on a Detroit team who actually has one of the better rush defenses in the NFL. They're giving up under 3.3 yards per rush. They're in the top 5 of the league in that category. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of things, the Lions should be able to outscore Green Bay if this one becomes a slugfest. Detroit's averaging more yards per pass attempt than any other offense besides one. And when it comes to the injury list, Nelson, Kabinda, Jackson, Skipper, Joseph, Mosley, Decker, Vaitai, and Montgomery, they're all currently questionable for Detroit. Meanwhile, for Green Bay, slew of guys for them as well. Valentine, Tom, Gary, Bakhtiari, Anderson, Jenkins, Jones, Campbell, Alexander, and Watson. They're all listed as questionable for the Pack. Now, weather-wise, really for the entire weekend, weather shouldn't be much of an issue. Should be a beautiful evening for football in Green Bay. Looking at probably low 60s, very little breeze by kickoff. When it comes to the total, 2 out of Green Bay's last 3 contests did get over the total. Give me Detroit -1 at Lambeau, over 46. Next game, Falcons, Jaguars. 9:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff on Sunday in London. That's Wembley Stadium. Jacksonville is -3 across the pond here. Totals 43. Pretty good two-way action on the side in this one. Haven't seen much movement on the spread. We did see a one point move toward the under already. And, well, I don't like the Jags in this spot here. There's a handful of issues offensively. To start, well, they lost their last two games. They scored just 26 total points in those losses, and they obviously failed to cover. Now, the Jags are having a tough time running the football. They're fumbling a little bit too much, and they tend to start slow. And, of course, on the defensive side of things, these guys just gave up 37 points to Houston at home. Have some pride. This is a secondary who ranks in the bottom 5 in the AFC in pass yards allowed. They're also allowing more third-quarter points a game than any other defense in the NFL. Once again, close out a game. Have some pride. They're facing an Atlanta offense who does tend to score late, and they really haven't turned it over a lot. Now, this Atlanta secondary, this is a top 10 passing defense. Jesse Bates has 24 total tackles, along with 3 interceptions. Meanwhile, linebacker Caden Ellis, he's the team leader in tackles. Feels like Atlanta's going to make this penalty-laden Jacksonville offense very uncomfortable. Injury-wise, Harrison, Jones, Johnson, they're all questionable for this Jacksonville offense. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, they're mostly healthy. for the exception of Cordero Patterson. Keep an eye on him. Now, the Falcons did see 2 out of their last 3 stay under the number. Give me the Falcons +3 under 43. Next ball game, Rams Colts, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Indy is -1 at home. Totals 46.5. And even though they have won 2 straight, I think the Colts are in trouble here defensively. They're giving up a considerable amount of yards per game, and they've forced minimal takeaways, really not all that opportunistic. And when it comes to the final minutes, well, the Colts tend to give up points late in games. They're facing a Rams team on the other side who's got a top 10 fourth quarter scoring offense. And no real shock, Matt Stafford's in the top 5 in yards per completion. I really think he can do work against this Indy secondary. Now, injury-wise, you may want to look at this offensive line if you're firing on this one. Noteboom and Jackson are both questionable for the Rams. Meanwhile, for Indy, quarterback Anthony Richardson still in concussion protocol. Kelly and Freeze also questionable for the Colts. Now, total-wise, Indy's most recent contest against Baltimore fell under the number. Meanwhile, the Rams on the other side, they saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under the total themselves. Give me the Rams +1 under 46.5. Next game, little NFC East action. Commanders at the Eagles, 1 o'clock East. Philadelphia is the 8-point favorite at the Link. Totals 43.5. Now, we saw a half a point move toward Washington on the side, 2-point move downward on the total as well. Philly opened 8.5 down to 8. Total opened 45.5 down to 43 and a hook. And in my opinion here, no real need to fade Philly in this spot here at home. They're 3-0 against the number, depending on where you're shopping at. And they're also rushing for over 185 yards a game. This O-line really starting to push people around. I'll tell you what, Swift really looking good in this offense. Seems like a really nice fit. This is a Philly organization that is committed to running. They're averaging a league-high 38 rush attempts per game. They're going to pound it. And that's certainly bad news for this Commanders defense because these guys are in the bottom 5 in the NFC in yards allowed per rush. And speaking of running the football, well, I don't think Washington's going to be doing much of that. They're going up against the number 1 rush defense in the game in Philadelphia. And of course, the Commanders really haven't been overly explosive on offense. They're in the bottom 10 in total yards per game. And of course, one of their biggest weaknesses offensively is quarterback protection. Sam Howell's been sacked 19 times through 3 ball games. That's a league worst. 19 sacks, 3 games. Nobody's been sacked more times. Now, injury-wise, the Commanders are fairly healthy at the moment. Just Logan Thomas, who's questionable right now. Meanwhile, for Philly, Watkins, Scott, Dickerson, Evans, and Sidney Brown, questionable for them. And like I said, weather-wise, going to be a really nice weekend all across the country. Going to be about 75 degrees by kickoff. Also going to be a little bit breezy. 2 out of the Birds' last 3 ball games got over the total. Washington, they allowed 70 total points in their last 2 ball games. Give me Philadelphia -8 over 43.5. Sorry, phone's going crazy. I got stuck on a group chat there. All right, moving on. Broncos, Bears, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver is the 3-point favorite on the road. Totals 46. We did see a half a point move toward Denver and the over in this one. And I'll tell you, as bad as the Broncos have been, this is a horrible spot. Laying 3 points away from home with a winless team who's playing terrible football. It's a horrible spot. This is a horrible pick, but I'm leaning toward the Broncos. I got to imagine they're going to rip apart this Chicago defense. The Bears allow over 6 yards per play, bottom 3 in pass defense. And whether you like him or not, Russell Wilson, He's leading this offense to 6 yards per play, top 5 in the NFL in that category. Now, they're also scoring the majority of their points in the first frame. So these guys are averaging more first quarter points per game than any other team in the league. Look for them to jump all over a Chicago defense early, who's actually allowing over 35 points a game. Now, injury-wise, Stevenson, Johnson, Blackwell, and Jackson are questionable for the Bears. Meanwhile, for the Broncos, it's mainly just their defense that's banged up right now. Looks like Simmons, Clark, and Jewell are questionable. They're on the injury report. Keep an eye on them. Now, once again, weather shouldn't be an issue Sunday. About 75 degrees, clear in Chicago. Very slight breeze by kickoff. Might not even be moving the little flags on top of the goalposts. Should be a nice, calm day. And when it comes to the number, all 3 of Chicago's contests this year got over the total. Very bad defense. Denver saw their last 2 straight get over the line. Give me the Broncos -3 over 46. Next game, Bucs Saints, 1 o'clock East. New Orleans, is -3.5. Total is 40 and a hook. Now, I obviously don't like this injury to Derek Carr. The Saints already showed some struggles running the football this year. New Orleans is averaging only 3.4 yards per rush. And this O-line's done a poor job protecting the quarterback. No ifs, ands, or buts. The Saints are in the bottom 5 in sacks allowed. They're going to have to block guys like Vita Vea and Joe Tryon-Shinka, who's they got a couple of sacks between the both of them, handful of TFLs between the both of them as well. And even though this Buccaneer offense hasn't looked overly dynamic, they're well disciplined penalty-wise, and they do protect the quarterback. Now, injury-wise, Davis, Dean, Dennis, and Cansey questionable for the Bucs. Ruiz, Adebo, and Moreau questionable for the Saints. Obviously, Derek Carr's got that bad shoulder. I think he sprained his AC joint. I did that in college. It does not feel good. Actually required me to get a cortisone shot, and it was a slight separation, so that does not feel good. Anyway, all 3 of the Saints contests this year fell under the total. The Bucs saw 2 out of their last 3 stay under. Give me the Bucs +3.5, under 40 and a hook. All right, next ball game. Little divisional matchup here. Ravens at the Browns, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Cleveland is the 2.5-point favorite. Totals 41. And normally when you talk about this matchup between these two teams, you normally talk about the Baltimore defense. But this week, it's actually the Cleveland defense who leads the NFL in many different categories. Cleveland's allowing only 163 total yards per contest. That's a league best. They're also limiting opposing quarterbacks to just 111 passing yards a game. And of course, much of that success on D can be accredited to the pass rush of Myles Garrett. The edge rusher has 4.5 sacks on the year already. And I'll tell you what, he does a number on an offensive coordinator's game plan. He draws people off sides, creates false starts. He creates all kinds of havoc. And even though the injury to Nick Chubb was devastating, the Browns were still able to put up 27 points against Tennessee this past week. Now, injury-wise, Newsome and Hudson are questionable for Cleveland. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, a ton of guys on their injury report at the moment right now. Ojabo, Edwards, Bateman, Stone, Beckham, Humphrey, Hill, Linderbaum, Owe, Stanley, and Williams. They are all questionable for the Ravens. Hot and sunny on Sunday in the Inner Harbor. No weather to worry about in this one. 2 out of both teams' last 3 contests, respectively, stayed under the total. Give me the Browns -2.5, under 41. All right, next ball game. Battle of the winless teams. Vikes, Panthers, 1 o'clock East. One of these teams will be winless in 4 tries after this game. Anyway, Vikes, Panthers, 1 o'clock East. Minnesota's laying 3.5 on the road. Totals 45. And I really hate this number for a winless team on the road. And even worse than that, I definitely hate this number for a team who's taking money right now in the sports books this week, and they yet haven't covered a point spread this year. The Vikes are 0-3 against the number this season at most shops, and they're taking money this week. That's incredible. And it's mostly been because of their defense. They allowed 62 total points in their last 2 outings. We're also letting opposing quarterbacks complete 76% of their passes against them. And that should fare well for a Carolina team who is committed to throwing the football with their rookie. The Panthers are slinging it 43 times a game. That's nearly a league high. When it comes to running the football, the Panthers are gaining over 4.5 yards per touch. Now, I get that Bryce Young is hurt right now. You didn't think I was going to mention that. You're like, oh, man, he's just going to overlook that. Bryce Young, he's banged up. He's hurt. He's got that bad ankle. Might not play. There's a chance he won't suit up. But when it comes to this Carolina organization, these are the games you have to have. When a winless team travels to your house and you don't have a win yet, you've got to take advantage. I think this medical team is going to do everything they can to get them healthy. But, hey, listen, not for nothing. I think, even if they have a backup in there, I think they're still going to sling it. I think they're committed to throwing the football. Now, injury-wise, Mingo, Louvieux, and Woods, they're all questionable. Meanwhile, for Minnesota on the other side, Metellus, Bradbury, and Davenport are questionable for them. Once again, weather-wise, beautiful day. Going to be a nice day in Charlotte on Sunday. Mostly sunny, 77 degrees by game time. 2 out of both teams' last 3 contests respectively stayed under the number. Give me Carolina plus 3.5, keeping this one close, under 45. Next matchup, Steelers, Texans, 1 o'clock East. Pittsburgh is minus 3.5 on the road, totals 42. And for some reason, I don't think the Steelers are going to cover here. They're in the bottom 3 in rush yards per game. And when they try to throw the ball, well, Kenny Pickett's completing just 59% of his passes. Now, defensively, there really aren't many teams allowing more yards than Pittsburgh. The Steelers are giving up nearly 400 total yards per game. And they're facing a Houston team who's got no qualms about airing it out with the youngster. Houston's in the top 5 in completions, and he hasn't turned the ball over yet. Now, defensively, the Texans really do tend to hold firm in the final minutes. They're in the top 3 in the AFC right now in fewest fourth-quarter points allowed. Perryman and Ta'o, they have nearly 40 tackles between the both of them. They're facing a Steeler offense who's in the bottom 5 in fourth-quarter scoring themselves. Olszewski, Robinson, and Daniels are questionable for the Steelers. The punter, Presley Harvin, he's also battling a hammy, so keep an eye on him. That could mean very bad things for this Pittsburgh special teams. Not only is the punter, he's the placeholder for kicks. Now, Houston-wise, Petre, Perryman, Tunzel, and Thomas, they're questionable. The Texans did see their last 2 straight get over the total. They scored 57 total points in those ball games. Give me Houston plus 3.5 over 42. All right, next ball game. The matchup everybody wants to see. Dolphins, Bills, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Buffalo's the 3-point favorite at home. Totals 53.5. And I'll tell you what, I'm curious if the Bills can slow down Miami. The Finns can both pass it and run it. I know everybody thinks about the passing game, but they can run it as well. And this Buffalo defense, they allow 5.9 yards per play on the ground. That is a league worst. If you think they're not going to run the ball against them, you might want to think again. I think they're going to slip a few rushes in there. And as good as Buffalo's looked on the offensive side of things, they're really not throwing it over the top much. Josh Allen's averaging only 8 yards per completion, bottom 10 in the NFL in that category. Meanwhile, this Dolphins secondary, though porous at times, well, I said it last week, they do tend to keep everything in front of them, passing-wise. These guys are allowing under 9.1 yards per completion. They're in the top 10 in the league in that category. But overall, let's be real, you're not here to listen to me talk about Miami's defense. So here are the offensive numbers. First in yards per game offensively, first in yards per play from scrimmage, first in rushing yards, first in yards per completion, and that's just a couple of stats there. There's a lot more. Tua, he's throwing for nearly 350 a game, 8 tutties, just 1 sack. He's getting protected. Tyreek Hill, 137 yards a game, 4 touchdowns. 2 out of Miami's last 3 ball games got over the total. Buffalo scored 75 total points in their last 2 outings. Von Miller's still out for Buffalo. Ryan Bates is questionable. Phillips, Waddle, Craycraft, Williams, Ahmed, and Croft questionable for Miami. Sunny and warm in upstate New York Sunday. Give me the Dolphins +3 over 53.5. Next game, Bengals-Titans, 1 o'clock East. Cincinnati's the 3-point favorite. Total's 41.5. And for a team laying a field goal on the road here, just keep in mind the Bengals haven't covered a point spread yet. Winless against the number this year. And offensively, the Bengals might not have the best offense on the field in this game. They're dead last in scrimmage yards per play. They're also dead last in yards per pass attempt. They're facing a Tennessee defense who they can get to the quarterback. Pretty good pass rush. They've got double-digit sacks on the year already, and they're led by Danico Autry, who's got 3.5 of those sacks. Meanwhile, Byard and Alshare, they lead the D in tackles. Brown and Chestnut, they've been placed on the IR. Pete Skoronski's questionable. Meanwhile, for Cincy on the other side, they're mostly healthy, for the exception of Irv Smith. He's battling a hammy. Sunny and hot in Nashville on Sunday, 86 degrees. Not a lot of breeze in the Music City. Should be a warm one. 2 out of both teams' last 3 ball games respectively fell under the total. Give me the Titans +3 under 41.5. Next matchup, Raiders-Chargers, 4:05 East. LA, the Chargers -5, total 48. And I am going to reluctantly lean toward the Chargers, even though I think this is a bad number for them. They're terrible on D, but I just have to imagine they can outscore the Raiders here. If you go tit for tat, they're just better offensively. Justin Herbert's throwing for more yards a game than any other quarterback besides Tua. He's also completing 75% of his throws. That is a league best. And they're facing a Vegas defense who's allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete over 74% of their passes against them. And, well, if they get into a shootout with the Chargers, I think they're going to run out of options. They are the worst running team in the game right now. And they may have to go to work without Jimmy G. He's in concussion protocol. He got his brain scrambled a little bit, so not even sure if we're going to see him in action. But to be honest, my decision on this game isn't even impacted on his status. I'm going with the Chargers reluctantly, whether Garoppolo plays or not, because I feel like LA can outscore just about any team in the league. They're not going to play any defense, but man, when it comes to basketball and turf, they can outscore just about anyone. Now, injury-wise, James, Eckler, and Kendricks are questionable. Mike Williams placed on the IR. That's a tough one. 2 out of the Chargers' last 3 outings did get over the total. No real surprise there. They could possibly put it over the total themselves. Give me the Chargers -5 over 48. All right, next matchup, Cards-Niners, 4:25 East. San Francisco's the 14-point favorite at home. Total's 44.5. And even though the Niners are arguably the best team in the league, you know, if you ask a lot of people or you even put up a poll on your social media, I think a lot of people are going to say it's the Niners who you know, they're cream of the crop. But you got to understand this. It's all about the number, right? They're facing a Cardinals team who's undefeated against the point spread. They're 3-0 against the number with covers over the likes of the Commanders, Giants, and Cowboys. And when it comes to defensive play, the Cards do have one heck of a pass rush. They're in the top 5 in sacks per game. Now, they're facing a Niner team who's pretty sloppy penalty-wise. These guys are committing 8 penalties a game when they have the football. So even though that point production is through the roof, 30 points a game in every game? You still got to imagine that these flags are going to eventually start to catch up with them, especially in divisional games. You can't commit 8 penalties on offense playing a division rival. I don't care how bad your opponent is. It can't happen. And when it comes to the point spread, well, the Niners did let that back door open in week 2 against the Rams. They failed to cover in that one. 14 points. It's a lot to lay against a divisional opponent. Now, injury-wise, Greenlaw, Thomas, Ayuk, and Debo are all questionable. Wide receiver core a little bit banged up here. Meanwhile, for Arizona, Collins, Barnes, and Woods are questionable. The Cards' last two games got over the total. They actually scored 28 points in each of those contests. Give me Arizona plus 14 over 44.5. Next matchup, Patriots, Cowboys, 425 East. Dallas is the 6-point favorite at Jerry World. Total's 43. Now, it does feel like the Cowboys should cover here. I think they just kind of laid an egg against Arizona. They're still second in the league in passing defense. And, of course, a lot of that has to do with the pass rush. Micah Parsons, 4 sacks on the season, a lot of havoc. This Cowboys D, they're holding the opposing quarterbacks to just 15 completions per game. They're facing a Patriots team who isn't overly dynamic offensively. They're in the bottom 10 in yards per play from scrimmage. And Mac Jones, he's been little threat throwing down the field. He's in the bottom 5 in the NFC and passing yards per contest. And of course, with this Dallas pass rush, we should see some more of the same out of them. Now, injury-wise, Godshaw, Strange, Jones, and Sal, they're all questionable for the Patriots. Meanwhile, for Dallas, Smith, Biotish, and Martin are banged up. You got to keep an eye on those guys. Those are the big men up front on offense. You got to have at least one of those guys playing. Now, the Pats saw their last 2 straight stay under the number. Give me the Cowboys -6, under 43. All right, Sunday Night Football. The Kansas City Taylor Swifts taking on the Jets, 8:20 p.m. East. The Chiefs are -9.5 on the road. Total's 42. And for some reason, we saw a 0.5-point fade of KC in the early going here. They opened as the 10-point favorite, down to 9.5. Total open 43, down to 41 and a hook. And if you think I'm going to talk about this KC offense, well, I'm not. Because it's their D that's been solid, rock solid over the past couple of weeks. These guys are allowing just 178 yards a game through the air. Kudos to that secondary. They're in the top 5 in yards allowed per play, fewest yards allowed per play. And they're also very disciplined. Just 3 penalties a game they're committing on defense, doing a great job in that particular category. Jones and Dana, they have 5 sacks between the both of them. Trent McDuffie leads the defense in tackles. And obviously, we know what the Chiefs bring to the table offensively. We know it. But what you may not know is that Patrick Mahomes, he's been sacked only 1 time this year, getting exceptional protection up front. He's getting all day back there. And, of course, when he has pressure, he's getting rid of it. Now, they're facing a Jets pass rush who's in the bottom 10 in sacks themselves. Probably going to have a tough time getting pressure on Mahomes. And if that's the case, Kansas City's receivers are going to have all day to get wide open. It could be big problems for the Jets. New York's in the bottom 10 in completions allowed per game. And, of course, on the other side of the football, it's been a disaster. Joe Willie Namath just totally blasting Zach Wilson in the media. This is the worst offense in the NFL. Dead last in yards per game. Dead last in completions. Adams and Schweitzer are questionable for New York. Nick Bolton questionable for the Chiefs. 2 out of both teams' last 3 ball games stayed under the number. Give me Kansas City -9.5, under 42. And with that, folks, we are going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. Monday Night Football, Seahawks at the Giants, 8:15 Monday night. Seattle's the 1-point favorite. Total's 46.5. Now, the Seahawks won their last couple of ball games, covers in both of those victories as well. And in those wins, the Seattle offense put up 74 total points. Geno Smith's completing nearly 70% of his passes. Just one turnover on the season for Smith, doing a great job protecting the football. When it comes to defensive play, the Hawks are limiting their opponents to just 2.9 yards per rush. They're in the top 3 in the NFL in that category, defending the run very well. Of course, Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks all over the field. They have 65 tackles between the both of them. If you need a defensive guy in fantasy, you may want to think about one of those guys. Probably get them on the cheap. Now, they're facing a Giants offense who's little threat throwing the football. These guys average fewer yards per completion than any other team in the league. And overall, the Giants are in the bottom 3 in the NFL in yards per play from scrimmage. See that? Looked like an orb behind me. Very bizarre. Now, if you think their D is going to keep them in it, just a reminder, these guys are giving up 33 points a night. Now, injury-wise, Neal, Davidson, Bredeson, Ojulari, and Andrew Thomas, they are questionable. Saquon Barkley still nursing that sprained ankle. Meanwhile, for Seattle, Haynes, Disley, Bryant, Cross, Adams, Woolen, Taylor, Jones, and Trey Brown, they're questionable for them. Weather-wise, good weather carrying into Monday. Partly cloudy and mild for kickoff in the swamps. Seahawks, last 2 straight, got over the total. Give me Seattle -1 over 46.5. Sorry, that orb, whatever was flying there behind me, bugged me out. Anyway, let's dive into it. Give me Detroit -1 over 46. Falcons +3 under 43. LA Rams +1 under 46.5. And if you want to see which one of these free picks I actually like the best, you may want to think about signing up for my NFL package on my premium site. The link is in my bio. Eagles -8 over 43.5. Broncos -3 over 46. Tampa Bay Bucks +3.5 under 40 and a hook. Browns -2.5 under 41. Panthers +3.5 under 45. Houston +3.5 over 42. Dolphins +3 over 53.5. Tennessee Titans +3 under 41 and a hook. LA Chargers -5 over 48. Arizona Cardinals +14 over 44.5. Cowboys -6 under 43. Kansas City -9.5 under 42. With my next and final free pick for the video, give me the Seahawks -1 over 46.5. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my website. If you guys do end up getting a membership here today on patreon.com/BrockPage, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, guys, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. That's why I always tell folks that Chairman Package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. It gives you access to every single personal play of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. As an added bonus, guys, you also get access to my Chairman podcast absolutely free. It's included with your purchase. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, folks, happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page at patreon.com/BrockPage.